What does exist is an audio recording of Donald Trump admitting that he had classified military plans that were not declassified. He was aware they were not declassified. He knew he didn't have the power to declassify them. He knew that they weren't magically declassified just because he took them with him. He admits to that on tape. And they're referring to specific documents that were in a folder that no longer exists. And it's largely because his defense team was aware that this tape exists. So what you're seeing about the Hunter Biden stuff, because the ultimate problem they have on the Hunter Biden side is the lack of the quo. The quid would be the idea that they've given you a couple of some scratch. So you quid pro quo me. You send me some money, and I'll quo you up a treat. And the problem is they can't find a quo in there anywhere because we're basically putting a big wet foot down on China. That the people who were running Ukraine at the time, by the way, that if the idea is that we're only supporting Ukraine because of stuff he did back closer to 2014, there's different people running and they have different motives and they're in a different circumstance. So it doesn't make sense. And also the prosecutor that got kicked to the curb was by order of the White House and the Congress and the IMF and the EU. Everybody was on board with getting rid of this fucker because he wasn't pursuing corruption, not because he was. Anyway, so hence the entire conversation dies with two words. Call him. Go, anybody who wants to, any of the maggots, go listen to the recording, the clandestine recording of Joe Biden talking about the prosecutor being fired while he's on stage at I think he's just given a speech. He's doing a round table at the Council on Foreign Relations in front of a giant crowd, like 300 people or something there. So I love how these assholes think it's a hot mic. Meanwhile, Trump does have a hot mic situation. And the weird part is, and this is going to be a question for the maggots that are in here. You guys, we have some trolls in here, and I wish maybe you guys can answer this. You still haven't answered the adrenochrome question. I'm racking my brain. If it keeps you young, why does everybody they allege is taking it look like shit? That's the big one. Answer that for me, and we'll finish the rest of your Roseanne conversation. But the part that I don't understand is that if he had the right to declassify stuff, and he's allowed to declassify any stuff he wants, why does he say, I could have declassified it when I was president, I can't now, we're going to have to see if, and his assistant or whoever the hell is there goes, if we can declassify it, meaning what, ask Biden? What's he talking about? Explain what he's talking about there, because I'm not sure he knows. So, I mean, you guys got to rush in there and clean his nappy for him again. All right, now, this is Megyn Kelly, and she's on a panel with a bunch of dudes who are fans of Ruth Buzzy, but she couldn't be there to that day or something. Anyway, she's on the Truthless podcast, and she says, why revealed, this is her kind of copping to some reality here. Why revealed audio of Donald Trump hurts his documents defense. Because I don't want to, spoiler alert, but because it destroys it entirely? Because he doesn't have one and he admits to not having one? I think something like that with the Truthless podcast host. Let's see what she says and see how close we all come to if we agree with her. Could be a broken clock moment for all of us. I
got a copy of is terrible for Donald Trump.
Okay, the CNN
recording that CNN got a copy of is terrible for Donald Trump's.
All right, well then that's it. That's I guess that answers it.
Legal chances. That's my take. It's terrible. Trump went on Brett Baier last week, and I believe mischaracterized it.
That's a sweet way of saying it. He lied his dumb ass off. He lied so. He made such an ass of himself.
I broke their ass.
That's right. He lied his ass off so much that it broke.
But we're going to play it for the audience and get you guys to weigh in and let the audience decide for themselves.
Yes, decide for yourself just how innocent he is. Because here's the thing. He's an outsider. He doesn't know how the presidency works. 4 years after doing the job. Like he's literally all right.
He should
Hug Steely Dan.
not have gone on Brett Baier and talked about the document. Before we saw the document, we only had a partial transcript of the tape. I said, we don't know whether Trump actually had the document. It could have been full of bluster. He could have been waving around, his...
Oh, no. He made you look like an asshole? Do tell.
The morning sports scores saying, look at this. I've got something that contradicts Mark Milley calling me a warmonger. I've got a document that proves he was the warmonger.
By the way, the president asked for the attack plans on Iran. What do we do if we're going to attack Iran? And they brought it to him because he requested it. The Pentagon doesn't just magically draft up attack plans for Iran. Like, Trump's not the first person to think this shit up. Neither is Mark Milley. So the idea that they were like, wait a minute, an attack plan to fight Iran? Jesus Christ, why didn't I think of that? We should have, guys, get to scribbling.
He was submitting plans to me to attack Iran, not the other way around. Could have been absolutely nothing in his hand. Well, he kind of tried to go with that defense on Brett Baier, but the full audio tape, I think, puts the lie to what he said. Let's first play for the audience exactly what he tried to say to Brett in diminishing what it was bullshit. He waved around some meeting involving Mark Meadows' book that Trump attended. A couple of members.
It wasn't a meeting. They were taping Mark Meadows as he walked around and had been talking to Trump and blah, blah. Or they were going to interview Trump for Mark Meadows' book to get him on tape. So he knew he was being taped. So he's just stupid. He's just I think it all boils down to this very simple fact that he's a liar and he's stupid. And that's a rough combination in a hero, maggots. That's a rough one. Get both of those together. Oof.
The press attended and some Trump aides attended that has now become such an issue for him.
Ready? You were recording.
You ready? Here it comes. This is my bullshit. Get ready. Here we come. Hello, bullshit.
It wasn't a document.
Okay.
I had lots of paper. I had copies of newspaper articles. I had copies of magazines.
I know.
When I said that I couldn't declassify it now, that's because I wasn't president. I never made any bones about that. When I'm not president, I can't declassify. Brett, there was no document. That was a massive amount of papers and everything else talking about Iran and other things. And it may have been held up or may not, but that was not a...
It may have been held up or not, meaning I may have held up a classified document or something, but it was in a pile of shit about a lot of things, most of it classified. Like, he's just, you'd think after all these years of fucking around on all of his wives, on just being like braggadociously full of shit all this time, you'd think he'd be better at lying. Right? Maybe it's maybe it's like a wrestler or a football player or whatever, like you're being a pitcher, like he threw out his lion arm and now he's getting too slow in his old age and his 96 mile an hour bullshit ball just does not go like it used to. And, his slider's gone, all of it.
Document. I didn't have a document per se. There was nothing to...
Per se. Per se. I didn't have a document per se. I mean, it was in a pile of stuff. It was tons of classifieds. It was a giant pile. We were in that theater with the boxes on the stage. I was just rifling through them. Look what's in here. Oh, look at that. That's classified. Look at that. I don't even know this shit. Look what I just found. Isn't that funny? Look at this. This is how we're going to attack Iran. This is our retaliation plan in case they attack Israel. That won't get any Israelis or Americans killed. I mean, obviously, should we? No? Right.
Declassified. These were newspaper stories, magazine stories, and articles. I don't think I've ever seen a document from Milley.
Oh my God. I don't think. Well, then how would it prove your case, stupid? Oh God. Like I said, at this point, how do you not know how to lie better? Jesus.
Very clear defense. It was not, I was basically saying I was bullshitting people. I didn't actually have it. I had just newspapers. That's all I was waving around. Well, maybe this was bullshit. Like maybe what you're about to hear was him bullshitting. Uh,
Yeah, except for all those empty classified folders and then the classified folders that had classified documents in them that had to be returned in a red weld envelope. Again, I filed a Freedom of Information Act. I'm still waiting on a reply. I filed a Freedom of Information Act request for all documents marked classified that were at Mar-a-Lago after the date of January 21st, 2021. Because if Trump magically was able to declassify things, there's any, just by taking them with him, if there's any legal justification for that at all, then I should be able to have copies of all of it sent to my house on a fucking pallet or whatever. And I didn't ask for all the documents, I want copies of all the documents. I just want copies of the ones that are marked classified or any semblance of classified. Because if Trump declassified them just by walking them out the door, they are for public consumption now. Right? They weren't, he didn't lower the classification. He didn't drop it down from top secret to secret and secret to classified and classified to lay that wherever you want to, did he?
Let's let the audience decide. Here is the full 2-minute tape of Trump with that alleged document.
Bad, sick people.
They're so sick, these bad, sick people.
That was your coup.
And look at the staffer that they have. I don't know which one that is, but I think she's the one that was helping shuffle the boxes around. But that's the weird thing is like listen how the shocking thing is most people listen to what Trump has said in this, but listen to the sycophants around him. Listen to like how you're expected to talk to him as an employee.
You know, against you.
Well, it started right at the
like
beginning.
when Millie's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in. That's right. Trying to overthrow your election.
Well,
Unidentified speaker. First of all, you know who the writers were for the book. You know Trump was there. You know Milley was there. Meadows was there, in theory. Except maybe he stepped out of the room and he was like, fuck, I can't be here when this shit goes down. Maybe he bugged out right about the time Trump started criming, because I don't think he's on the rest of this. Who the fuck is that? Well, let's just stop for a second. Like, we've heard this tape, but that doesn't strike anybody as fucking lunacy? This asshole is waving around classified documents. He's aware they're classified. He's aware he has no right to have them. And then it says, thank you for becoming a member. Hey, don't forget to subscribe, by the way, because who else goes through all this stuff as thoroughly? You're welcome. That doesn't bother anybody? That part. Who the fuck is that? Who is it? Anna de Rothschild? I'm just going to assume it's Anna de Rothschild at this point. Anna de Rothschild is the unidentified speaker. Prove me wrong.
with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran.
Listen to him. Tell me, does that sound like folders to you? Listen. Hold on, let me jump in here.
That
Hear that? That sounds like, you ever handle file folders? Listen to this.
let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran.
Just saying, that doesn't sound like, that does not sound like newspaper or magazines to me. Right?
Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look.
This thing just came up. I have so many classified documents here. You can't even touch one of these folders without showing something to people they're not supposed to see.
This was him. They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him.
Okay, first of all, again, the Defense Department has plans for retaliation and attack on fucking everybody. It's their job. They're hammers. They need to know how to deal with every nail that exists. That's how it works. That's how the Pentagon works all the fucking time. As a matter of fact, we prepare battle plans for our allies. We go, hey guys, just in case, You might want to, just because we know that this is going to happen, so you might want to, in case this is what they're going to do, and then this is what you'd have to do to get past what that does. So here you go. You're welcome.
We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look. Wait a minute. Let's see here.
And then the unidentified speaker, Anna de Rothschild, is sitting there and goes, "Oh my God, classified documents. That's so funny because that's what I came in here to see."
Yeah.
I just found. Isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case, you know.
By the way, he didn't have a case at that point. There was no case. He's got cases now. This is part of his fucking case. This point, it was just a pissing match between Milley's, appraisal of him as a president and his own opinion of himself. He's such a defensive wuss that he needed classified documents and to show them to fucking strangers to reassure them that he's not a murderous lunatic because when he was president, he toyed with the idea of being a murderous lunatic, and people stood between him and that process.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. Look at this. You attack, and
Hillary.
By the way, that it looks like you attack Aunt Hillary would print that out and put it later. That ... That means they edited it. He says what's in the fucking. All right. This is not the complete recording of that moment. Let's just be abundantly clear. I don't know anybody, like, even Megyn Kelly's not pointing out that that's the case. Those ... there and there, right? That stuff they edited out because he drifts into talking about classified stuff. He explains it. That's what those dots are. Good Lord. Thank you so much. Yay. Thanks for becoming a member. Yay. All right.
They would print that out all the time,
she'd send it to Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
By the
The pervert, says the dude in a room full of women who bragged about grabbing women by the... Oh, God. Yeah, he's the pervert. Do we need to look at the gif of you dancing with Epstein again, asshole?
Isn't that incredible?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about it. And, he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the papers. This was done by the military, given to me.
See, he goes, they want to attack Iran. And there's something they removed. They took a piece of it out.
Oh, God.
I think we can...
By the way, that's Megyn Kelly laughing about it. It's the other people, the mics are up in the other thing. There's not another unidentified woman.
Probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out
See, as president, I could have declassified
Yeah.
it. Now I can't, but this is
Yeah,
classified.
now, yeah.
They all saw it. They've all these idiots, including the quote unquote unidentified person, they've all been interviewed. He's a moron. He's an absolute moron. Everybody there that he showed it to they've talked to them. They've all been asked about this conversation. They've all been asked about what they said. Hold on, somebody said he what? He absolutely cannot declassify any of this stuff, and he's aware of it. This is the important part of this recording, more than anything else, is that he's aware that he is committing a crime. He is aware that this is wrong and that he's not supposed to do it, and he's not supposed to show it to these people. And the people who are there are aware that they are not supposed to see this.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. Here I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring
they
some
never had
cokes in,
afforded
please.
I mean,
Yeah, it's not holding up well. Again, he describes what's in the document on the full recording. They cut it out because they can't have it drifting around because it's literally redacted for national security purposes. Like, he describes the plan that's in the documents in front of him. The judge, and to some degree the jury or the attorneys, will more than likely, his attorneys have to get security clearance that he doesn't have, by the way. He and Walt Nada can look at this stuff under supervision. They can't discuss it with anybody, and they can't take any notes. So they get to go in a skiff temporarily and look at stuff, but he's already seen this shit. This is already happening. But his attorneys and the state's attorneys, like Jack Smith's attorneys, the prosecutors, and the judge, will all get to look at this stuff, and they will write something in, because the jury won't be able to see the fucking attack plan to Iran. They're not going to give security clearance in a case like this to 12 jurors and you know, I'm sorry, juror number 12, you're excused to go do interviews with the press. That's never going to happen. So all of them, like, they will put this in. Britain is what we have. The attorneys for the defense and the prosecution and the judge will sit in chambers, and with another party, wherever they'll, in viewing the stuff, they will give that this is the document in question. Yes. Is it confidential? Is it secret or is it top secret? Yes. And then they will say, from this point to this point, the defense and the prosecution will argue, will be operating on the idea to the jury that all of this, the part you can't see, just understand that's actually classified at top secret. We can tell you that. We can't tell you what's in it, but we can tell you that that is the case. That's how it's going to work.
I was waving around a newspaper article is not going to cut it. He says this was done by the military and given to me. These are the papers. It's highly confidential. This is secret information. In the newspaper, it's not going to work. They got him. They got him on this particular issue. He should not have given that interview to Bret Baier in that way. What do you guys think?
Oh, yeah. I mean, where do you start?
Prison? I just start with prison. I mean, just send him straight to prison. Get on with your fucking life. Pick another Republican leader. You can find some other rich douchebag to run your party. Jump at it.
Yeah, the Cokes was a nice touch, I guess. He was trying to provide refreshment for the assembled.
He wanted one. He just got him for everybody else because he assumed that's what they'd want. He's at a fucking country club and he asks for Cokes for everyone. What? I'm sorry, were they at the kids' table? Cokes. Really? Yeah.
No, look, I'm not a lawyer.
Oh, come on.
But it strikes me that when you have audio of your client talking about the inadvisability of sharing the documents that he is sharing on audio, that's not a great start.
Right.
The Bret Baier thing is a total mystery to me, and Bret did a great interview, as he always does, but I can't imagine any.
What's the mystery? Trump is a delicate, weak man with pathological low self-esteem that he presents to the world as narcissistic overreach, chicken feathers in the world, fluffing himself up. That's because he can't stand for people to know anything about him, know how weak he knows he is. That's it. That's why he did the interview with Bret Baier. He can't stop himself. Seriously, any other politician in that situation wouldn't have done the interview with Bret Baier. They would have done it with Hannity. They would have done it with somebody else.
But being put in a situation where they have a federal indictment against them and they're just sort of like winging it on air.
This is his freedom.
You just don't talk about it.
He's risking his freedom. Why is he?
Because he's stupid. Because he is a stupid person. What if Coke is code for Coke? Yes, that's all it is.
Doing that. It was absolutely foolhardy to speak of. Even Trump should be able to say, obviously, I can't speak about that because these guys are trying to put me in jail. That would have been a totally acceptable answer that did not show any weakness. It would have shown a rational assessment of what the risks are to him in this.
Yeah, but then he has to be a rational person to think that. And I think that would be the biggest hole in your theory of how he could have avoided this.
Prosecution. That was an insane thing to do, especially given that there does appear to be a specific document. Now, they haven't found the document. They haven't found the document.
They have a copy of it. Let me explain something to you. They don't have to show the document that he had, that he destroyed, or he still has at Bedminster hidden somewhere. Oh, no. They don't. They have a copy of it, and they have a copy of the day it was shown to him and what it contains. And that little part that they took out of this, which contains part of the plan that he explained to these writers, that part is in that document, and they will go, see this part? This is the part he was reading. This isn't in any newspaper. This little bit right here, that never showed up in print anywhere. The defense knows of it. They're welcome to scour the internet for this little blurb that he basically read out loud in front of people. And this is the actual document. We don't know where his copy is because we have record of it going into the Oval Office. We have no record of it coming out. Fuck, he's dumb.
Wasn't found in those Mar-a-Lago boxes, but they
Okay, Bedminster. Also, wasn't Ivana cremated? I'm just saying. Seemed like a heavy box. What do you think? Gold? We think it had some gold from Fort Knox. He had Manchin bring some, what's his name? Bring some of it back from Fort Knox.
never searched Bedminster. And if you read the indictment, it says Trump wound up taking a bunch of these documents to Bedminster, his golf club up in New Jersey.
You know, the ones where the Saudis just visited and stayed. That's okay? That's okay, maggots? You're fine with that part. Sorry, Mnuchin. Yeah, did I say Manchin? Mnuchin. Yeah, thank you.
And they decided, for whatever reason, maybe because of PR and so on, not to raid Bedminster. So honestly, that document could be sitting there right now. I have no idea, but it certainly sounds like Trump had it in his hand.
Oh, he took some of the boxes to Trump Tower as well. His attorneys, they looked. You don't need to come look. We did a look. We didn't find anything else. Now, I know what you're thinking. His attorneys also said that about Mar-a-Lago, and that turned out to be a lie. They signed papers saying we looked and there's nothing here, and that turned out to be BS. And that was between the subpoena and after those boxes were taken to Bedminster.
And that day, and understood, as he said, it was secret, it was highly confidential, it had not been declassified. That's not even the issue at this point, the classification. It's just whether it relates to national defense. And more importantly,
yeah, it is, though. It's because his awareness that he could not declassify this stuff it totally proves the lie of every other document there. That he has no illusions that he magically declassified stuff just by walking it out of the Oval Office, which is ignorant, ridiculous nonsense. Who in the world thinks that's a good idea? Who? I mean, if you want to crawl up Biden's ass for having boxes in his garage, he had the same declassification powers that Obama had. And if Trump's saying, without writing any legislation, without signing an executive order that gives him special fucking powers, he didn't do any of that stuff. There's no EO anywhere in that Trump signed that anybody has ever shown, including Trump himself, that says, I give myself the power to magically declassify stuff, and it's declassified anytime I carry it with me. That's that. It doesn't exist. So if he thinks it comes with the powers of the presidency, then Obama had it as well. Well, Obama gave Joe Biden the equal power about declassification that he had. So if Trump's making the case that he can magically declassify stuff, then so did Joe Biden he had that power as well. So honestly, at this point, the only defense Trump has is to defend Joe Biden.
specifically says in here that the military gave it to him. The military did it and give it to him and recognized that it would have been inappropriate to share unless it was declassified, which it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, going back to the preface of your thoughts on this charge and the advisability of whether or not they should have prosecuted this at all. I have a little bit of different take than you, Megyn. I think it's possible to be deeply concerned about two systems of justice here. I think
Yes, we have two systems of justice because Reality Winner would have been under the jail at this point already. Anybody else in this situation would have had to give up their passport. They would have been under house arrest or in fucking jail awaiting trial the entire time. They would have been known to be a flight risk on all fronts. Trump is getting special treatment. Treatment he does not deserve. Do we have a two-tier justice system? Yes. Putting him in jail would end that.
it's possible to be deeply concerned about where these leaks are coming in the course of a prosecution of one political party versus another political party.
Okay, it's not two political parties. It's Donald Trump against the law. Secondly, does anybody notice how these recordings have come out after his legal team has gotten access to them, not before? Oi.
Without defending what is a pretty serious underlying charge. And
that's how I feel.
Yeah, and again, because it's indefensible. Stop. You can't talk about a two-tier justice system and say, never mind the fact that he's guilty. Let's talk about the system. Okay, no. If you want to talk about a two-tier justice system, then talk about use an actual example of someone who is innocent, who's being railroaded, or someone who is very guilty and got away with it. Not somebody you suspect, not somebody you think, not somebody who hasn't been charged, somebody who actually, on a technicality, managed to fuck off.
Where do we disagree?
Because I think whether or not you bring a charge against Trump, I think you have to, if you believe this to be true, and this audio suggests that it very well could be.
It suggests it. You know who suggests it in the audio? Donald John Trump.
I think the government has no choice to bring a charge. I think they should have brought a charge against Hillary Clinton as well. I think anybody
but they didn't.
Who has
but they didn't. That's got to play
documents.
in.
No, it doesn't. You know why? Because there was no material in the wind. The existence of the server and digital copies of things that you allege exist in this server, which we never saw any proof that there was. There were things that maybe should have been classified or whatever. They were lightly mishandled, but none of them were like war plans or any like top secret or human intel stuff. There was none of that in there. And none of the emails, by the way, all the emails were back and forth between her and state, her and other people in the administration. There are copies of all of it. No 30,000 emails vanished. Emails don't vanish. That's why Trump doesn't use them. That's why I like shit on paper. Secondly, she didn't try to hoard them after the fact. The job afterwards is, you want to make sure this stuff doesn't get in the wind? Destroy all the devices. Then they could look at all the stuff, but none of this stuff is going to end up in a dumpster or end up copied or anywhere else. And when they leave the State Department, that's what they do. Agents do that. It's normal. But the idea was, this is paper. Copies of real, like genuine intelligence in the fucking wind at a rental property where members of the club and non-members can rent the place out anytime they want to. Nobody, like, at no point did anybody get to rent out Hillary Clinton's server. And again, the materials themselves that were alleged to be on Hillary Clinton's server, the 30,000 emails and the other stuff, the charge was that they were looser than they should be about some classified stuff. None of it was top secret. None of it was human intel. None of it gave away national secrets. None of it was about our nuclear program or about our allies' nuclear program. And none of it was stuff that they hoarded. There's a huge difference between setting a bunch of shit on fire and it no longer exists and trying to sneak it out in a briefcase. That's the difference.
But Holmes, they didn't bring the charge against Hillary Clinton. And I realize it's not Comey still at the FBI. It's a different attorney general, but that it doesn't matter. Like it's the office's priors that matter, not yours specifically as Merrick Garland.
Yeah, no, but I think there are two separate tracks of what you've got to do here.
Yeah, if you want to defend this, you have to operate in two different realities. Well, on the one hand, he's guilty as fuck. But on the other hand, I hate that woman.
I think almost every Republican presidential candidate has suggested that amongst the first things they do is rework the whole FBI, rework the entire Department of Justice.
Why? So that they wouldn't catch people doing exactly this? Because again, if the argument was that he was innocent and that they found out that they had planted this stuff, or they had made a deep fake recording of him, or he didn't admit to what he said, he knows full well what he said. He admits in the Bret Baier interview that he was there present when he was talking to those people. This is not a made up conversation. They didn't edit this shit together at all. He's guilty. That in and of itself should matter. But then again, these are folks that, quote, back the blue until they're, Capitol police officer getting, overrun by MAGA hats.
To make sure that we actually have a justice system again, and not one that benefits the political party, one political party in particular.
Why would it benefit them in this situation? Because they have evidence that the former leader of the other party engaged in criminal espionage. They're not torturing Republicans in fucking Guantanamo. It's him. What I don't understand is, I was talking about this the other day, and I think it's an important thing to bring up is that one of the reasons that we don't use sexist, anti-gay, or bigoted language when you're in an argument with someone, besides the fact that it's, sexist, anti-gay, or bigoted language, or racist language, why you don't do that in your interactions with an individual who you might have a problem with, is because you effectively take this one person you have a problem with and you make it about a bunch of other people and you involve them in the fight. And my argument is never call in an airstrike on your own position. The minute you do that, the minute you bring, instead of me and this person have an issue, me and your kind have an issue, then you're calling in an airstrike on your position. You're saying everybody even remotely tied to you is on your side of the argument, and now they are part of this argument. It's a terrible. Not only is it morally wrong, but tactically it's fucking dumb. And the same thing is happening with these guys. What they're doing is Donald John Trump, a man who 2 years after he took over his dad's company, he and his father were sued by the Justice Department because they wouldn't rent to black people. A man who palled around with Jeffrey Epstein for the better part of 2 decades. A man who bragged about grabbing women by the pussy and has over 24 credible sexual assault allegations against him, one of which is going through the courts for the second time because he's so stupid he couldn't keep his mouth shut after he was already found culpable in it. That guy, that man, that single human being, a man who, by the way, while he claims to, support evangelical Christians, believes prayer is a sign of weakness and there is nothing he would ever ask God for. Not because he doesn't think he deserves something, but because he doesn't pray. He doesn't believe in forgiveness. He doesn't believe in asking for forgiveness, which is anti-Christian. It is literally, no one enters the kingdom of heaven but through me. That's the purpose of Jesus Christ. You have to walk the path of his behavior to do it, to get into heaven. And he thinks, that's just stupid. That's something stupid people believe. That man stole those documents that he knew he had no right to and showed them to other people with a wanton disregard for the safety of every American citizen. This isn't about Republicans versus Democrats. This isn't about one party versus the other. And what Donald Trump wants to do is turn this into party on party. And it's not. It is not. What do I think all Republicans would be so slapdash with national security? No. As a matter of fact, I think the vast majority of them are secretly, or at least, quietly, horribly offended by this. So what the fuck does this have to do with one party going after the other party? Are Republicans the party of individual responsibility or not? Because every fucking time this asshole gets into trouble, they call in an airstrike and want to throw themselves on the grenade for him. I don't get it.
And then there's a separate issue of how you deal with crimes. I don't think that you can excuse criminal behavior for anyone because the other party got away with it. I think that the only
how
answer
can you
to this
say that in the
is-
vacuum that vacuum? And I look, as a general principle floating around out there, I agree with you, but you can't disassociate that statement from what happened with Hillary, what's happening right now with Hunter that we spent the first half hour talking about. You just can't. You can ignore criminal behavior. They're doing it right now.
No, they're not, because the FBI has already gone through this, and this was, by the way, not just Comey, who Trump wouldn't even be in office if it wasn't for Comey. Let's just be abundantly clear. If it wasn't for Comey coming out and saying that shit about there might be more to Hillary Clinton's email thing than there was, and 2 years later, nothing. If it hadn't been for him doing that, Trump wouldn't have gotten over the hump. That's what gave him the Electoral College. That's what gave him that extra 75,000 votes in 3 states. And Hunter Biden pled guilty to 2 tax charges and a gun charge. And it is the difference, by the way, between being criminally liable and admitting your criminal liability and your absolute wanton disregard for the legal system entirely in the case of Donald Trump. Donald Trump is like, fuck you, copper, come and get me. But instead of standing on the roof with a Tommy gun like some sort of gangster from the 40s, he's just kicking his supporters off the roof, using them like human bombs.
Yep, exactly. But if you do that, you perpetuate the end of this country itself. This is a country that is a democracy that relies exclusively on the trust of the American people. If half of this country believes that they are never going to get a fair shot simply because of their political affiliation, one of 2 things happens. Either they all become Democrats or the country erupts into civil war. You don't have...
No one's going to have a fucking civil war because Donald Trump showed our retaliation attack plan if Iran bombs Israel to a bunch of fucking writers because his dick felt small. I don't know what this half-you IKEA desk that they're sitting behind is, but do you know how like noxious and fucking dumb that is? Well, here's the thing. All this does is encourage some pop-offs by lone wolf lunatics that, you know, at worst, a possible Timothy McVeigh, and on the small end, like the dude who shot up the FBI office in Cincinnati. The rest of this country is going to fight the rest of the goddamn country because Trump admitted to stealing documents, admitted on tape, got caught doing it, and they're like, but Hillary, they did an investigation, and it didn't turn out that she meant it, and there was no top secret human intel from, but still, like, nobody's gonna fucking rise up and no.
A choice when you're operating in a place like America, but to try to figure out how to get back to what our founders intended as a government for.
Yes, and for the people, by the people, and of the, shut the fuck up. Look, what our founders intended was that we don't have a king, primarily, that we have a chief executive, but that person is just like everybody else. As we say in the Masons, everybody's on the level. We're all equal. That's it. All men are created. That's what the fucking point is. That's where we are. And if Donald Trump gets to skate on this shit while, you know, Snowden and Assange are fleeing the fucking country and Chelsea Manning and Reality Winner are doing their time honorably, if there's 2 tiers of justice, it's because they let him slide.
The people and by the people.
Do you
need some gold or something, or buy something? I don't know what the rest of her thing is she's going to be pitching there.